Hey, have you ever seen somebody using a ritual tool and wondered what it was for or if it was even necessary? Stick around because that's what we're going to talk about.
Welcome to the podcast. I'm Skogul, Gydia of the Northwoods Kindred.
And I'm Bodvarr, the chieftain and Gothi.
In days of yore, youth was born, the sturdy strength of the stock of gods. At the edge of the earth, Eden mates nine give birth and suckle to the brightest of the gods.
This vlog has ended. Thank you all.
Group hug!
Today we were going to talk about just the different types of ritual tools, and of course we have a lot because we're very ceremonial about this kind of thing, but we're going to talk about kind of like the hows and the whys, and then some extra tools that you could add if you're kind of into that thing, or what you really need as a basic bare bones if you're just getting started, or if you're not really into the pomp and circumstance of it all, right?
Mm-hmm.
So we actually have some questions from our Discord too. So we asked our tribesmen on the Northwoods Kindred Discord, hey, what are some questions that you might have revolving around ritual tools? And they chimed in. So we got a handful of questions that we're going to cover periodically as we go through the talking about ritual tools. That's really all we're going to do. We're just going to talk about ritual tools, and we love it because we love ritual tools. I guess the first thing I want to talk about is what are ritual tools, and not what are the different types, but what are they in general? What are they for in the first place? So regardless of what we're talking about, whether we're talking about dressing for ritual, which is a kind of a tool, I think.
I think it is, yeah.
At least I consider it one.
Yeah.
Some of our jewelry and things that we wear, those costume elements, those are also ritual tools, I think. Especially since a lot of them have sentimental value because they were gifted to us, or we made them, or they were an exchange in an important time in our life, like a wedding gift or something very dear from a friend to pay back something that we gave them, and the gift exchange sort of.
Yeah. Or we're a certain at a certain show or on a certain adventure, and we just came across it, just like found us somehow.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
And that happens more often than we care to admit, I think.
Yeah.
But we're going to try our hardest to not make this this particular episode very video dependent, although we will show some of these items. We'll do our best to describe them to you that are just consuming it audio. But if you want to, in your free time, bounce over to the YouTube channel and see what we're talking about. Well, some of these items will hold up and we'll show because we have a few of them laying here with us. And just to let you know that there is a little visual component, but shouldn't be visually dependent. But we are talking about ritual tools, and it's kind of hard to discuss everything without showing it.
Right. And ours are pretty flashy.
They're pretty flashy. We've been doing this a long time, and we tend to gravitate towards certain things. And so most of our tools are brass, bronze, and copper. So they're shiny and flashy and kind of bling.
Well, mine are silver.
Yeah.
Silver and crystal and...
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Yeah, yours are. Most of yours are silver and crystal.
Yeah.
Mine are brass, bronze, and copper. But that's the Marine in me, I think. I'm drawn to that, polished metal.
Yeah.
You
always have been.
Yeah, it's just kind of my thing. So,
and for me, I'm looking, but I haven't found anything that's delicate and feminine enough in the copper and bronze.
Yeah, I can see that.
So right now I'm comfortable with silver.
Well, plus I have a kind of a feeling that some of these, if these tools were ancient, not everything we use is ancient. I think about the most that they had back then was the bowl and a knife and and a lotine. But I would think that any tools that progressed into the Viking Age or into the later, into the Iron Age and stuff, were generally held over from like the Bronze Age period. So I think that the brass, bronze, and copper is kind of authentic. There is some mentions of it in like the Viking Age by Duchaillu. He does mention that a lot of the finds for the bolies are in, he says copper, but I think it could be bronze or brass too. I don't think he's not a metallurgist. He's a historian. So,
Yeah.
but yeah, I mean, it could be any number of alloying elements collected together during the Bronze Age when they're figuring out how to do that. So most of my stuff is copper because I like copper, right? Mm-hmm. But also bone and wood; those are nice elements to add to it too. So why I'm talking about the elements is some people don't care. Some people just, I like this bowl. Oh, I like this hammer. Oh, I like this thing. And I'm going to add this to my stuff. Oh, I found this feather and I got this antler. And they're going to add that to their stuff. And that's fine. And that's perfectly suited to their taste if they like that sort of that eclectic feel and everything kind of comes from a different place. I like all my stuff to kind of rhyme, visually rhyme. You know what I mean? Does that make sense of rhyme?
It does. It makes sense to me. We really do like our ritual tools to be very ceremonial. Like there's a lot of showcasing and just pride in our tools.
Yeah, for sure. And our tools are used for that purpose and that purpose alone.
Yes.
I'm not sure that might have been the case back in the day. We don't really have any records of that, but we don't know if they used their bowl to cook chili. We just don't know. Most likely, they weren't consumers like us in the modern era where we have way more stuff than we'll ever need or use. So it's easy to just have some extra bowls that aren't getting used for anything else, right?
Yeah, we have a lot of bowls.
Yeah, we do. So bowlies, and that's the distinguishing characteristic too. We call it a bowlie if it's a ritual bowl. If it's just a bowl, we could eat cereal out of it or whatever.
I usually talk to my lady at work across from me, and I told her, I was like, if you find any metal bowlies, let me know. And she's like, what? What do you mean? What are you talking about? I was like, metal bowls. And she's like, oh, I thought you said something else. I didn't really want to explain it to her.
Yeah. Sometimes it's not worth it. It's not worth the time. So the centerpiece to almost any ritual is our bowl. And we use ours in every ritual. Whether we're doing a summel or a bloat or a naming or anything. We've even got some backup bowls and some extra ones because certain rituals require more than one vessel to carry more than one substance. What do we got for questions?
Let's see. Is there a proper way to retire old tools when they no longer serve a purpose or you need to replace them?
Okay. That's really a good one to lead into because I understand that a lot of people will probably start off with whatever they have. Maybe Grandpa's old hammer and a clay bowl out of the kitchen.
A lot of people use Grandpa's old hammer.
Yeah. I have a Grandpa's old hammer.
I know, you gave it to me.
It's around here somewhere.
Yeah, you gave it to me.
Yeah, but it's around here somewhere.
But it's mine.
It's mine, it's yours, but it's my grandpa. Anyway, so, Grandpa's old hammer type of thing.
We get a little territorial, too.
We do. We're a little possessive on our stuff. But they want to retire that when they find like the right tool. I've probably been through at least a half a dozen bowlies in my Ossetru career in the last 30 years.
Yeah, me too.
And I hang on to them for a minute too, and they get a lot of ritual on them. But there's just every once in a while you just like, nope. It served its purpose. Let's move up to the next one.
Yeah.
So how do we retire a bowlie or a tool? I think bowlie or a tool or anything, it's all about the same.
I would think so, yeah.
The retiring process.
Yeah.
And I think the thing that tends to slip people's attention a lot is that we're animists. And we give credit to the energy that's in these things like they're a living, breathing creature. Because they are made of energy. We know that. That's science. That's just science. Science finally caught up to philosophy on that one. But, so we know...
Your nerd is showing.
So we know they're all made of energy. So all we want to do is we just want to honor the energy. And we want to, in a lot of cases, ask for an energy exchange. So what I've done many times when I've retired a bowlie, well, I won't retire it unless I had another one. And I would usually, in any ritual, it doesn't matter. We could be doing a bloat to Freyr or whatever. But there's a portion inside that ritual where they can do other work. And that's where I would retire the bowlie. And I would take the actual mead or beer or whatever we were using in that ritual, and I would ask that it take that energy of the bowl and transfer that into the new vessel, that vessel carries forward all the luck and the energy and the blessings that we've previously put into the old one. And then the old one, I never just like retire a bowlie or a tool. Like I'm not going to get a new hammer and then put that other one in the shop. It's almost like it's always going to have a place of respect, and I just kind of put it aside, and then there always seems to be an opportunity to give it to somebody who needs it. Right? That's what I've always done. I've never actually took a tool, turned it into a ritual item, and then turned it back into a tool, with a few exceptions. With a few exceptions.
Yeah.
So what do you think about that? About transferring energy like that?
Well, you've done that many times in our videos, just transferring the luck of the boli into some of our kinsmen's vessels.
Mm-hmm.
And so they have some of that energy going forward. I think another thing to do with them is passing them on very quickly. Like we've passed on them to our children that are still using them.
Right.
And a boli is not something generally you gift. You know, it's a very personal thing, but just because you gift one doesn't mean you can't pick a new one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, right.
That
Yeah,
seems to be, something that some people are concerned with, is when they're gifted with something they can't upgrade.
Oh, right. Yeah, they feel like they're stuck with this one that's only mediocre to them because it was given by somebody who's very important to them.
Yeah.
No, I think, well, I mean, I can't speak for everybody, but if I gifted somebody a boli and they upgraded from that and they used that one, gifted it down to their daughter or passed it, laterally to a friend at work or whatever, like I would be honored by that. Like that, you started that cycle.
Yeah.
Right? And that cycle is going to perpetuate. It's a gift and a gift and a gift and a gift, and it's going to keep going. I would be honored for that to happen, but I can see how some people would take that personal, and I'm afraid that's just something you got to navigate. So, but generally a boli is such a personal item, well, most ritual tools are, that they're not gifted. If you want to gift someone a ritual tool, a really good way to gift a ritual tool is to gift a god statue. Because there's limited designs available, and it's, if you're a Tyr fan, you could have 20 of them, and it's still okay. It's still okay,
Yeah. So. Well, we talk about gifting, but I think gifting is the wrong word. I think a better word is we're passing it down. So it's not actually a gift. It's you can use this until you find yours.
Yeah, and I wanted to make that point too, that a lot of it's transitional. Like if I was to wait until I found my one perfect bowl and my one perfect hammer and my one perfect whatever, I would still be sitting around not knowing how to do ritual.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
But the thing is, like the first ritual I ever did was in the desert of Kuwait, somewhere around 95, I think, 1995.
That sounds
and it
about
was
right.
straight out of the Rites of Odin, that trashy book from way back in the day. Think what you want of it, but it doesn't matter. All I had to perform this ritual was a little, like a key. It's a little metal key that you open up a pop-up with, but it's shaped like a T. So obviously you flip it upside down, it's shaped like a Thor's hammer. So I had that, and I had an MRE box to use as an altar, and we had some candles. I don't know, candles, I think they were in a survival kit or something. I forget where we got them from. And then we had a canteen cup to use as a boli. Yeah, the one that the canteen fits down into and it's kidney shaped. Yeah, that was our boli, stainless steel. And I say our because I had a friend with me. And then what did we offer? Coffee. We offered coffee because it's all we had. We're just in the desert. I mean, life sucks and we didn't have anything to give, but we're like, let's do a ritual. Let's try this thing out and see if it's any good. And should I tell like the story on that thing? Or?
I mean, there's people here that haven't heard this story.
Okay, so we didn't know what we were doing, but we did have pure intent, and we did have a good idea as to what we would. We just wanted to essentially, because it was myself and a friend that I was, brand new in the Marines with, and we were both walking this path, trying to figure it out, like a lot of people are today, just trying to figure out brand new information. And all we had was, we didn't have the internet. There was no internet back then. You'd go to the metaphysical shop, or you'd get lucky. Barnes & Noble might have like a Wicca section or something. They might once in a while have something to do with, the Norse religion, right? Like it was that scratchy. So I had the Rites of Odin. I found that book at the Barnes & Noble bookstore, and I took it on deployment with me. And we were in Kuwait with this book, and I'm sick of reading it. Let's go do it, right? You know what I mean? So, I mean, we got there on a boat. That's like 3 months of just floating across the ocean reading this book.
Yeah,
so I'm like,
you like you said, you didn't have the internet. You didn't have a digital library at your
nothing at all.
fingertips. Yeah,
Nothing at all. Just a book. So we get in the desert, me and a buddy of mine, Claire, and we set up and we do this ritual. And as we're in the middle of this ritual, we notice there's a haboob on its way, which is like a sandstorm. It's like this big wall of sand, and you can see it way off in the distance coming at you. So we're watching this haboob while we're trying to introduce ourselves to Odin as new pagans. And it's like, hey, guess what? We're walking in your realm now. Like, it'd be okay if you looked on us favorably once in a while. You know, just, we don't know. We're just doing what we do. And a lot of this stuff was just read, like, line for line out of the book because that's what we thought.
Yeah, that's what the book said, right?
Yeah, that's what the book said, you know. And people don't write books that don't know what they're talking about, do they? Well, sometimes they do. Well, so we read it out of the book and we do this thing, and we got candles around in a circle because it's all Wicca based anyway, and the altar's in the middle, and this haboob's getting closer, and we're like, we need to take action. Because, there's certain steps you have to take to protect yourself when these things go by. And, you got to get down and cover yourself with a poncho. And, and everything that's laid out looks like it's made of sand. Just picture like if you just threw your rifle on the ground and a knife and a MRE box and all that kind of stuff. And then the haboob went by. When you looked at all your stuff, it would look like somebody was on the beach and carved it really cleanly out of sand. That's what it looks like. It's completely coated.
Okay.
It's very neat.
Okay,
Until you touch it.
I got that visual.
And then it all kind of just falls apart, and it's just your junk again, but it's really, really dirty. So that happened, and then we, that thing's coming, and we didn't break the circle or end the ritual or anything. We're like, we got to get the hell out of here. So we run back, and we get our gear, and we go down to cover, and we wait for the haboob to pass, and because it's real violent. It goes by, and we walk back over to the circle, and everything's windblown and torn up, but everything that was inside the circle, the 4 candles and the altar and the boli sitting on all that stuff, none of it was touched. None of it was blown over. None of it was covered in sand. It's almost like there was like this little bubble protecting just that little space, and we're like we were mesmerized. We were shocked by the whole thing. It was like, I'm never looking back. Like, this is what we're going to do. And I haven't, that was a long, long time ago.
Yeah.
But the idea of it was we didn't know what we were doing. And all we had was what we had, which is just some random junk that was issued to us. And we did it, and it worked. And it actually made a profound impact on us. So it was kind of a long way around that. But it's important to just do it. I could still be using that same canteen cup as a boli today. Or I could have progressed, and as my knowledge of the path grew, so did the dog and pony show of my gear. They've almost grown incrementally together. Like, the more I learn, kind of the cooler my gear gets.
Yeah.
And it's just by happenstance. It's just because it's kind of where your mind's at, and when you're thinking about that kind of stuff, then it kind of, you're able to find it when you see it. You'll be able to say, hey, that would be a really cool tool for this thing.
Yeah, I don't know how many times we've been out thrifting or at craft fairs, and it's like, hey, you know what this would be great for? And it's like, I know exactly what you're thinking.
Yeah. I know we're not talking a whole lot about ritual tools, but
we never stay on topic.
We wander a little bit. But the beauty is that you don't really need a lot to do it. Like, I would feel comfortable in the forest just digging a hole in the ground and using whatever water or beer or whatever I have in my pack. I would feel comfortable with almost nothing doing a ritual and just using the ground as a boli. Just scooping out some dirt and using that as the bowl and pour my offerings right into it.
I do have someone that had a question similar to that.
Shoot, let's go.
Let me see.
You should put check marks next to the ones we answer, though.
Oh, that's a good idea. So what would be some tools to bring on a long hike outside, and what would a ritual look like to thank the gods and nature around me?
Oh, cool. Yeah, so I don't think you have to worry about bringing anything specific that you wouldn't bring anyway. Like a hollow tree stump or a hole in the ground or even a dip in a rock on a bed of stones or something. Some of them got those little dips. Any of those things would be appropriate bolis, I would think. And I don't think you would need to bring anything else. Not on a hike. I think we always have to remember that we're animists and we honor the land when we honor the gods. I don't use the word worship very often. It's not. It's kind of like not something that's been into my vocabulary. I've always used venerate or honor or show gratitude. I've always used terms that are a little bit more personal. When I start getting deep into philosophy, we could be, as godlike as any gods, and this could just be like an experience that we enjoy having once in a while, is to come down to human form and learn and play games, and then we go back and remember it, and we're back hanging out with our god kin. I don't really know. I don't know how that works. It could be.
Let's not go down that.
We could all be immortal, but that's kind of beside the point on this podcast. But we are animist, and we do believe that everything is of energy, and that everything should be honored for the energy. Whether it's a rock or a tree or a leaf, or because even if it's dead already, its energy is still being returned to become new energy for something else, like mycelium or the plant life or whatever, right? So it's all just one big cycle, and we have to honor that cycle, and we don't need any special tools to do that. I think the only thing that we really, if you wanted to really bring something, I would bring something to give up. I would bring the sacrifice. And a sacrifice isn't just pouring mead out on the ground. It'd be the carrying of the mead all the way there for the purpose of pouring it out.
Yeah.
Like, there's a sacrifice in that. I mean, you're hauling weight, you're giving up, your beverage or whatever. Like everything you put in your pack is less room for something else that's important for your survival or for your trip or whatever, So there's a sacrifice involved in just carrying it there, just kind of carrying the whole thing, And even water, like if you're not hiking to, Maiden Rock or something out on the shore, wherever you're hiking to, you have the water that you're carrying, then water is a massive sacrifice, potentially a deadly sacrifice, like it really matters. Yeah. Water is very precious in a situation like that. So to be hiking up to, maybe not Everest because you're covered in snow, but to be out someplace where you don't have regular access to water, a sacrifice of water would be just as grand as any mead or anything else. So I really do think that we can, as long as we're just trying to, I think it's more about the intent, right? If your heart's not in it, then you could give anything you want, and it's still not going to make a difference because you don't really mean it.
So what would that ritual look like?
In the woods? Well, we did one, so we didn't bring any ritual gear, but we went out hunting. Right?
Oh, yeah, you're right.
And and she shot a doe, and we just dragged her up on a stone it was only like 2 inches out of the ground, but it was a big stone. You could tell it was the very top of a much larger boulder on the top of a mountain. And we just dragged that doe up on that mountain and gutted it, and then did a ritual right there. And the only ritual tool we had was my knife.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then we used the knife like anybody would use a hammer or anything else. And then,
which was even unnecessary too.
Yeah, it wasn't even necessary, but it was still felt like I kind of feel like I need to have something in my hand, like a composer for an opera or whatever. He's got to have his little thing in his hand. It wouldn't be the same if he didn't have something in his hand, would it? So, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I do.
So I feel like I have to have something in my hand, but that's just me. That's just my practice. Going out hunting, you're not going to carry ritual gear with you everywhere you go all the time. So you just use what you have. We always have the kind of the beauty of ritual tools in general are they're the same tools that we use every day, or the same tools we need to survive. A bowl to eat out of, a knife to cut your food up, a hammer in the shop. Like, they're just regular things that we use all the time. So you can just make do with what you have with you, because if you don't need it, then how important really is it as a ritual tool anyway? Obviously here at our stead, and we're doing ritual for YouTube, and there's a little pomp and circumstance involved in it. It's like a military marching band sort of thing going on. We kind of have that whole vibe going on, but none of that stuff's really necessary, I don't think.
Well, I don't think it's necessary either, but it certainly brings us into a space better.
Yeah, Yeah, for sure, because, just think about like a military marching band. Think about them marching down, they got their rifles, and maybe they got a sword, and and they got bayonets on their rifles, and they're doing these drill movements, and the bayonets are slicing close to their friend. But watch some of those drill movements. They're insane, but they're just mesmerizing. Now take away the bayonet, you lose some of that element of danger. Take away the rifle, and it's just drill, right? Mm-hmm. Take away the uniform and put them in basketball shorts, and it's like, it's just a bunch of dopes playing around on the grinder. Take away the drill instructor singing his cadence. Every level, every tool, every piece you take away from it, it becomes less ceremonial and more mundane, right? Mm-hmm. So the more ceremony you want to add to it, it's really just about a personal style. We like the pomp and circumstance of it. We like the dog and pony show. Some people just like it to be super simple and would almost be repelled by the dog and pony show of it all. Mm-hmm. But I tell you what, we did the ritual at Northwest Pagan Fest, and those people didn't seem to be put off by the pomp and circumstance of it all. Mm-mm. From the procession to the whole spiral entrance to you counterclockwise with the camera, like everybody was totally into it.
Yeah, yeah.
Because sometimes a parade is just fun to watch, right? Mm-hmm. Or even more fun to be a part of, and that's really what it is. It's a parade. So, short answer, if we're talking about the hike here, is that if you're going out into nature, think about it. Think about what you're going, and often maybe give like acknowledgement to the gods and the spirits of the land, and be nice to the people you're with too. That's important. Like, yes. You can't go on a 6-mile, 5-mile, 10-mile hike with your family and be yelling at the kids and yelling at your wife and yelling at your friends and yelling at other people on the trail, and then you're like, oh, I'm so grateful to be here in the woods. You're full of shit, and they can feel that energy. So you got to get the energy up. You got to raise your vibration a little bit and be happy to be there, right?
Yes.
And to be there, not to get there. Right? Because the goal isn't to get there. The goal is to be where you're at. The goal is the journey, not the destination, right? Mm-hmm. So
I want to make 2 points on just going for hikes in the woods. One is pick up trash. If you find trash, pick it up. That will certainly... it's maybe not an offering to the landvatir, but it's certainly, hey, I care about your home. And
Never thought of a trash bag as a ritual tool, huh?
Right? Yeah. I mean, we would put our trash bag in our quest basket.
Yeah. Right.
Which is a whole nother ritual tool in itself.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And then 2, look for gifts, because gifts are given in the woods.
They are, yeah. And I don't know about you, but I feel bad if I refuse a gift in the woods.
Yeah, some of the gifts are a little
I'll be flying down the trail on my 4-wheeler and see a feather, and I'll be like, I got to get it, because they brought it to my attention. It means it was for me. Or a bone or something. You know what I mean? You've seen me do it.
I do. I've been on the back of the 4-wheeler. And usually I'm like this, or I'm taking a picture.
Oh, yeah. You're doing some selfie stuff.
Yeah. It gets bad.
All right. So that's us. That's why we don't.
Or, there's usually a gift that maybe is a little bit more ripe than what we want to put in our backpack. But it's a gift. Mm-hmm. So, I just want to make that point. Look for gifts. They're out there.
Yeah, look for gifts. And then gratitude. Show gratitude. So if you can have a good attitude on these hikes and treat people with respect and, be a good steward of the land, you don't need to carry any tools with you. Got any more questions?
I do have questions.
We could talk more about tools, too. So we talked extensively about the boli. And I will say that Duchalou says that the majority of finds were of copper. Mm-hmm. So, and for me, that means it doesn't necessarily mean that copper is the right material chosen by the gods to be the only thing that you can sacrifice in. It tells me that they probably had a lot of pottery that they were doing their sacrifices with or of in the Stone Age, melding into towards the Bronze Age. And once they had copper, brass, and bronze, well, those things can get dropped and kicked by a sheep and, and not break. So they probably just survived better and made it to the Iron Age and the Viking Age and, those later periods. They probably just survived better out of copper or bronze than the clay or stone versions before them.
Did you want to show your copper boli?
I can, yeah. I got a couple of them here, actually.
As long as you're talking about copper.
So as long as we're talking about copper, mine is a replica of an Armenian find. And it's just got, for us, it represents the Norns. And when I found this bully, I knew that this is the right one for me. It leaked like a sieve because they didn't set the copper rivets correctly. So I had to go back and reset the rivets. And I did a little bit of work on the lip too, fixing the lip because it was pretty banged up. And I keep inside mine a big, giant, fat quartz crystal. It just lives here. And the reason it lives in the bully is that it just kind of absorbs the energy of the bully. And it gives me an opportunity if I need to transfer energy to something else, I can keep it in close proximity to the crystal. You know, like if I got a new tool of some other design, I don't think I'll ever get another bully. I think I'm pretty much where I'm ever going to be with the bully, but I can still use this to transfer that same energy to and from other objects. So, for example, this is my travel bully. So I have 2 different complete ritual kits.
I actually have a question from Discord about multiple ritual tools if you'd like to take a crack at it.
Yeah, because we're already kind of going in that way. So I have 2 bowlies, obviously. Both are copper because it's kind of my thing. This one's a little more simple. But the idea is that I have one that I can travel with. So now it's not just a travel bowlie. I still use it here as well. I use it for an Asavatni for Indy. I didn't use the little brass one. I used my copper one.
Did you?
I think so. Didn't I?
I don't think so.
Huh.
I think you used your regular brass Elsavatni, and you transferred the energy in that one because you had the new bowlie and you actually did a dedication on it.
Yeah, well, we'd have to look at we'd have to go back to the instant replay and find that out.
Here we are, back to being sportscasters.
But anyway, so I have 2 bowlies for sure, and I have 2 hammers. So this one right here was given to me. It was just a basic hammer. It was just, I did the leather wrapping on it and everything. So I tuned it up a little bit. But this was actually given to me at Yule in 2001 when we were voted in as full members of Gallarhorn. That's when this was given to me. But my travel one is one that I made in a previous video here on YouTube when I showed how to make a hammer out of a Harbor Freight brass hammer. Oh, you're going to put the link there? Yeah, cool. So that's my travel one is that other hammer. So the hammer is another ritual item that we like. I've seen a lot of people, they use different types of hammers. Some are just like flat wooden ones. Some are real hammers. Some are big sledgehammers. There's really no wrong way to do it. It's really a personal thing. I like this. It fits my hand well. It's got just enough weight without being too weighty. But you feel like you're holding on to something, you know. So for me, this has always been just the perfect hammer, and probably because it was my first real hammer.
Yeah.
So, like I said, I've been through a half a dozen or more bowlies, but this is the only hammer I've ever had, other than using a little charm like a necklace or something. I've never had a ritual hammer other than this one.
And see, you gave me this one.
I had that one, but I never used it. It was my grandfather's.
Sometimes I miss this one because I have a wooden hammer. And I want to tool it. I want to add some leather and I want to add some carvings. It's just something I haven't done yet, so I haven't really personalized it yet. So sometimes I miss this one.
Yeah.
But sometimes I like the wood one too.
But like I could never take this hammer and put it back in the shop and using it as a soft blow for driving pins and stuff. Like I could never do that.
No.
You know, even though it's never actually been used for ritual.
Yeah, it has.
Has it?
I've used it for ritual.
I mean, by me, I've never used it as ritual.
Yeah, I've used it as ritual. Ritual.
I forgot that was your only hammer for a while.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah, but I could never see anything other than keeping it as a memento. Well, this one's got some history anyway, being that it was my grandfather's. And it's funny because my grandfather wasn't a pagan. He was a machinist. So he would have used this hammer, this little soft blow hammer, to set when he's setting up stuff to machine, he would use this hammer to tap it. You know, you tighten it, you tap it, and you get everything lined up to a 0 tolerance, and then you go to work, right? That's what he would have used that for precision work.
Okay, so the question from Discord is, it's kind of a 2-part question. Do you want both parts at once?
Let's start with the first one, and we'll see what happens.
Okay. Can you have more than one set of ritual tools and why you should. And why should you?
And why should you? So they're leading us into the question already, huh?
Yeah.
They're saying, yes, you should, and this is why. Well, I don't know that you should. I do, because I have a kit that stays here with the Kindred, and I have a kit that goes on the road. If I have the need to perform a wedding or a funeral or any number of different ceremonies for other people away from the homestead, I don't always want to, because a lot of times you're not watching your stuff. Like, I would be devastated if I had to go perform a funeral for somebody I don't know, and somebody made off with my boli because I was over there entertaining the widow or something. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, I would lose my shit. I would lose my shit.
Well, I mean, just think about TSA and losing it through
Oh,
the
yeah, I didn't even
airport.
think about that. The whole idea of traveling with it. And,
Yeah, and then you lose your bowlie, and you lose your horn, and you lose your hammer, and
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah, you could lose a whole kit. So
a kit that you've spent a lifetime
building and preparing,
Yeah.
And my travel kit's no less valuable, truthfully.
True.
And it's got some ritual on it too, but I think I could, when I put it together, it was in my mind, I was saying, I can live without it. And like I said, like, you don't have to be into the gear of it at all. It's not necessary for anything. And I know that seems contradictory because we are always using it, but we're into it. We're into it. Some people aren't. That's fine. And there's times when we're not either. There's times when it's just right to use what you got and to just, I would never say let having lack of gear stop you from doing a ritual, right?
Yes.
But if you do a ritual with gear, you can get really comfortable so that you can kind of ad-lib in the moment with whatever's there, you know? Most people wouldn't think about, hey, well, there's a hollow tree stump, I'll use that as a bowlie, or there's a rock, or I'll just dig a hole in the ground and I'll do my ritual right here on the ground. Like, you're giving it to the ground anyway. Why not just go directly, you know? And one ritual tool, well, I should have probably talked about it with the bowlie, that we never have, is the Spittegensbrek.
Oh, yes.
Spittegensbrek would be the Germanic version of it. A Hlottein would be the Scandinavian version, or Icelandic. Hlot being bloat, H-L-A-U-T. And a Hlottein would be a sprig of evergreen used to sprinkle the mead or the blood. It's attested to in the sagas. I think they talk about it in Iceland a little bit, about them coming in with the boli of blood and splattering it on the people and the walls and the idols in the temple. It's attested to, but it's not something that we ever own or possess. We harvest it where we're doing the ritual, and we leave it there when we're done. And we also give, I usually lay it at the base of the tree, thank the tree for helping us, and then pour some mead at the base of the tree also to give it enough energy to replace the piece that it loaned me. But we never have one. We never go out with a Hlottein. We always cut it in place. And sometimes I forget. And sometimes I pour the mead in the bowlie and we do all the ritual. We're in the middle of ritual and I'll just zip it, walk over to a tree, cut my tine, and then go back into the ritual.
Yeah.
Because sometimes you just forget that you didn't carry it out there with you. You got to actually get it when you're there. But I think that historically it would be an evergreen.
Yeah.
And that's the thing. Because I remember talking to my mentor, and I was asking him, I was like, well, if I wanted to travel one, I never know if I'm going to be doing this in a church or something. If I wanted to travel one, would a feather be appropriate? And he's like, man, just go outside and cut one, like, and bring it into the place with you, or, if you have to. Like, evergreens grow everywhere. Just get one, or get a piece of oak, or find something natural, not like an old feather or something.
Which was kind of proven at Northwoods Pagan Fest.
Yeah, there's always something.
Because it's like, oh, wait a minute.
Yeah, because we're at Pagan Fest. We did actually cut it before the ritual started, but we had 3 Gothis, and we all went to the same little cedar. It was this little cedar bush over in the corner, and we're surrounded by concrete. There's some grass and some trees, but we're essentially in a big concrete circle. But the circle had these little pockets all the way around it, and they had cedar in them. So we all just went and harvested a little piece of cedar and put it in our bowlie and put it up on the altar before the ceremony began. It was pretty cool.
Uh-huh. And it's interesting to see the 3 different
preferences on how we cut it. And yeah, that was interesting. I was kind of looking at it too, like, I wonder why they chose that piece, or I wonder why that one's so big or that one's so small. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's interesting. But we all had we all had our own preferences on that. So it's certainly something that you can build or, gather for your own preference.
Mm-hmm. All right. So second part of that question.
Yes.
That was just the first. Tools that may be uncommon and not usually considered part of the ritual or borrowed from other traditions, such as like using a pillow for utiseta, a coffee cup for daily offerings, a drum to walk the procession, or music to set the mood.
Well, I think music's a topic for a whole nother podcast, but certainly a drum is a ritual tool, depending on the ritual.
Mm-hmm.
Especially if you're doing shamanic rituals, then the drum is absolutely essential. But other specialty tools. So there's a lot of uncommon tools we use. So like when we do a fray bloat, we're using an antler. That particular antler that we use was gifted to us for very special reasons. And we thought it's such a special gift, it deserves more than to be a wall ornament. It deserves to be used. It deserves to be honored. And that's why we use it in ritual, because it's a special gift for a very special occasion. And we found a way to take that special gift and incorporate it into our ritual, right? Mm-hmm. And we have other things, like, so if we go out and we do a bloat to frigga, we almost always keep a hammer in one hand, but sometimes we carry other stuff too. Like if I'm doing fray, I'll still have that Thor's hammer because it's traditional, but I'll have the antler in the other hand. Or if we do frigga, we have a drop spindle, right?
Yeah.
Very appropriate for frigga as a nice little wooden drop spindle, and it's almost like a hammer.
It is. And when I did my utiseta, because I was doing it to both Freya and frigga, I did a drop spindle in one hand and my magic wand in the other. So.
Well, let's kind of veer off topic a little bit for just a second. You said you did your utiseta to frigga and Freya. Now, I just want to clarify that that's not always the case. I know that I went out there in tandem, which isn't even really traditional for an utiseta, but I went out there in tandem with my son Leif, and we did our utiseta to Odin, because we went out there for the specific purpose of saying we're ready to learn more about the runes, because he was starting his study and I was going to mentor him. And then you were out there for a different purpose, and Frigga and Freya were essentially the ones that you needed to gather information and strength and stuff from, right?
Yes.
So.
Yeah. I opened up ritual to them, one for Frigga as the All-Mother and being my patroness for so many years. It was more of a honorary open with her there. And then Freya, because I was really going out there to find my inner goddess and just kind of unleash her.
And what kind of stuff did you bring to represent them? Did you bring anything, statues or?
I brought the drop spindle.
For Frigga?
Yes. I brought my magic wand, I guess you would call it. I mean, for Freya. I brought runes for some, Sidra work later. I don't think I brought anything other than that. Moon water.
Okay. But you didn't bring anything that really represent. Well, I don't know. The drop spindle for Frigga is pretty representative.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I did.
Well, Freya, you brought your wolf pelt.
Yeah, Freya brought my wolf pelt. Oh, I think I did bring my wooden Frigga.
Oh, yeah. I'm sure you would have brought that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know why you wouldn't have brought that.
Yeah, so I brought that too. But I also brought other things that I didn't consider uncommon ritual tools. They weren't ritual tools at all. I brought a couple of wool blankets.
Huh.
I didn't necessarily...
So that's where he's talking about with the pillow. He's talking about other things.
Yes.
Yeah, so a wool blanket's definitely an important thing.
Yeah, that's what I sat on. And I mean, I even brought a pillow because I did want to be comfortable. I wasn't going out there to suffer. I was going out there to absorb.
But to be clear, you were there from sun up to sun up.
Yeah, I went out there about 7 a.m. and around 7:30 is when I left. Yeah. Yeah,
and so when we did the same thing, and we opened it to Odin, and we were just there with runes, and we didn't bring anything. We brought we each had a cup to drink with because we were sharing water, and we ended up making some tea, but we made tea over the fire with with our tin cups, and we just used pine needles and rose hips and stuff from inside the vey. We didn't actually go wandering or foraging or gathering or anything. So that was kind of cool. But I guess another unconventional item kind of along those lines is something that I use. It goes in my travel kit. I don't use it here because I know where I'm at. When I travel, I carry a small pocket compass. Now I have a really ornate brass one that has a screw-on lid and it fits really tight together. It's a really neat kind of a package.
And that's what you would consider an uncommon ritual tool.
Yeah, because it's not necessarily necessary to the ritual at all. But if you do like we do and we orient north, you got to know which way north is.
But I do think, like, the coffee cup for daily offerings, that in itself turns into a ritual item. If
It does, yeah.
If that is what it's dedicated for, that's, yeah. I mean, it doesn't matter if there's My Little Pony on it. Like, it turns into your dedicated offering.
Certainly, and one of the offering things that we have, too, is we have the bowlie. Obviously, we talked about that extensively, but we also keep like a goblet. And this is more for smaller offerings, like when we offer, we'll say at a feast, we cut out a portion of everything and set aside a god plate. It's really more for the whites, but we call it the god plate. And then we also pour some libation to them. Well, this doesn't go in the bowlie. This goes into a cup because it's drink for their food that we've offered them. And it'll usually be wine or beer or whatever we're particularly fond
consuming.
of. Yeah, and it's not unheard of if we get a hot wine or something at Yule that we'll pour a mug of it and set that over there too. And to have multiple cups actually sitting out. So every time we're changing the phase of drinking for the evening, they change with us, and we leave those things out. And usually we let them sit overnight, and we dispose of them after that. But the offering itself, let's don't forget that the offering itself is a ritual tool. The mead or the wine or the beer or the animal that you have to sacrifice or whatever you're doing, that's a tool too. And if you are doing a live animal sacrifice, there are other tools that you'll need. You're going to have a sharp knife. You're going to have hobbles or some way to contain the animal. Other stuff. So really the nature of the sacrifice or the ritual is also going to dictate what kind of tools that you have available. Another one that we always have that is fairly historic is our oath ring. Now you probably, if you've been around here for a while, you've probably seen us at least swearing an oath before a meeting or something all collectively. But what you might not have noticed is every time we bloat, you'll see that I am wearing my Kindred oath ring. It's always on my wrist because it was a old kind of turn of the century Icelandic law for the Gothis was that when they would go to the thing or the all thing that they would have the oath ring because it was very important for settling disputes, witness testimonies. Everything was done on the oath ring, whether they were doing foster brotherhood, which we now today call blood brotherhood, various different other things that all required some form of an oath, and oaths were most generally sworn on the ring, right? You could swear them on other things, but the Gothi was supposed to be responsible for having an oath ring. And then, from what I understand, maybe they could be fined or something. I would have to check the sources on that. I don't know if they would strip their Gothihood, but you certainly wouldn't be a very well-respected Gothi to be walking around without a ring on your arm. That was certainly part of it. So it's something we've carried forward that we got from Gjallarhorn. Haakon is always, every ritual Haakon's ever led, as far as I've seen, he's had his 24-ounce silver oath ring because that was what the law was. It was supposed to be 20 ounces or something. And he just bumped it up to 24 for the runes. Why not, right?
Yeah.
And I think our old kinsman Ragnar donated the silver to make that one, to have that one made. And I am myself collecting small donations of silver from kinsmen and friends and guests and stuff. Whenever they hear about it, everybody's like, "Oh, here's some silver. Here's an old silver thing or an old necklace or whatever." It's all going into a bag. So when I get close to that 24, then I'll cast my own. Based on this same model, but right now it's solid brass, and I made it on a lathe from a big chunk of solid brass that my aunt had given to me. So she was a machinist in Tennessee, and she was like, "Oh, I had this extra chunk, and I thought you would like it because I know you like weird things." And then I was like, "Yes, thank you," and I made a ring out of it, and that's how it happened. And she's dead now. So I'm kind of a little snobby about oath rings. Like I think for the for the Gothi, for the official oath ring, it should be a ring, not a horseshoe or a bracelet type, a slip-on, slip-off bracelet. I'm of the mindset that it should be a connected, complete ring. But that's just me. Like, it doesn't just. We don't know. We don't have any examples. We don't know what it looked like. Maybe there's some examples. Maybe the Icelanders know and they're not sharing. So I have some Icelandic friends. Hey, do you guys know specifically what it looked like back in the day? Have any of them survived? Have they saved at temple or anything? I'd be real curious to know what they actually looked like. I know the one that they use now in Iceland is a big ring. It's a big ring.
Is it?
Yeah, it's big. Like, you can hold it. Like, it's obvious. You know, it's a thing. You know, it looks like a hula hoop. Not really, but
I was gonna say that's a little exaggerated.
It's a little exaggerated. But there's like a thing now about like people are like braiding copper and then making a ring out of it and looping it together, and it's supposed to have some energy fields. They put it around a cup of water and drink the water. It's, I don't know, it's a lot of stuff going on with the magic of copper and energy, how it moves energy or something. So it's just something to consider, that those things aren't too awful hard to make, where you just twist them and then cut the ends, make a circle and solder them together, and then you have a complete ring and it's made out of copper. I think that would be a really cool oath ring too. Maybe we can make those and sell those. I could put those on the website.
Yeah.
Copper's easy enough to come by. It's just heavy gauge wire. You know, you just strip it and yeah. That'd be interesting.
Yeah, well, it'd definitely be nice to get out in the shop and play again.
It would be, to get out there. Maybe I'll do that on craft day while everybody else is doing their other things. Maybe I'll try and pioneer a prototype or two, you know? That'd be kind of fun. Anyway, oath ring's important. It's I will always have an oath ring at a ritual. You'll also occasionally see that I wear an iron torque that was forged for me. Hakan gave me that as a gift when we started the Kindred. I think it was even a little bit before the Kindred. It was when...
I was going to say, I think you had that longer. You've had that for a while.
I think he gave it to me when... Yeah, because it was before the Kindred, because it was when that last trip we took to California was when he gave it to me.
Was it then?
I think so. I don't know now.
I feel like you've had it a long time.
I feel like I've had it a long time too, but I feel like it's never... I've never put it into use.
Well, you were never a Gothi before.
Yeah, well, yeah.
I mean...
just learning the trade, I guess, yeah. I wasn't a Gothi until we started Northwoods Kindred, so...
Yeah. I mean, it just sat there. There was no reason to really...
Yeah. But there's no indicators that was ever a thing to wear that neck torque. It was just kind of a thing that...
More pomp and circumstance.
Yeah, it's just more pomp and circumstance. It's just more cool jewelry. So, what else do we have? Do we have another question?
I do have a few more questions.
Yeah, give me a question.
Okay. Let's see. What are your thoughts and advice on setting up and caring for the Vey or other sacred spaces?
Ooh, yeah. That's because I guess that's a ritual tool. Like that's your parade ground.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So there's a difference between the grinder and a Walmart parking lot. You know.
Yeah.
So. You know what I mean?
Well, most people don't know what the grinder is.
Well, the grinder's the parade deck or the parade ground where you do all that stuff, marching and.
As a Marine.
Yeah. Left, right, left, change of command, all that kind of stuff. Yeah, so setting up the space. So our space is unique in that it's dedicated, and not everybody has the room or the space to have a dedicated, cultivated Vey, but I assume that's what that questioner is asking about is a dedicated space. Mm-hmm. They don't talk about like on a hike, just picking a spot.
No, just setting up and caring for the Vey or a sacred space.
So our Vey, we do very little work out there without the Kindred. We go out there and do our personal stuff, and but when it comes to raking it out, cleaning it, working on the wall, because we have like this wicker wall around it made from just slash and dunnage from around the land. When we do those kind of things, the Kindred's always involved in that. So from the very, very beginning, when we found the spot where we're going to put it, the Kindred's been involved in every step of maintaining it. But it's almost part of, for us, for the Northwoods, it's part of our gathering ritual is that morning, that Saturday morning before ritual, is maintenance, vey maintenance. We go out and we beautify it and we clean it up and we stack wood and we do all the things that need to be done, not only to make it photogenic, but to make it look like we're taking care of the place. Remove the dead branches that fall out of the trees, rake everything up, stoke the fire,
Fill the bird feed.
fill the bird seed. Yeah, because we have a lot of bird feeders and stuff in our vey. Sometimes we have wind chimes, they fall down, or an antler will rot off a tree and we'll have to nail it back up. And,
I do want to jump in and say that none of our kinsmen helped us with the setup of the vey, not the original setup.
No?
That was just our kids. We didn't even have kinsmen.
That's right. Yeah, we didn't, did we? Yeah, because we moved it from... That's actually kind of a cool, like, talking about repurposing ritual tools. We repurposed a vey. So we had a small family vey that's out here close to the house, and that was all we ever needed. And we'd done some other rituals, and we had some guests and stuff.
Yeah, with some guests.
We had a few people over, but it was always a little bit tight, I think.
Yes.
You know?
Yes.
It's good for, like, our family, but you add 2 or 3 more people, and it's a little bit too tight for any kind of ritual. But so when we decided to start a Kindred, there was we were sitting in the backyard, and we basically just said, should we do this? We really missed where we came from, and we missed Gallahorn, and we knew that Gallahorn was never going to be what it was in its former glory because everybody's moved around the country, and ain't nobody selling their homes. Like, everybody's happy where they're at.
Yeah.
We get together occasionally, but we're...
And the few rituals we did in our old vey, it was like enough to make us want more, but need more space and more, just put a little more effort into it.
A little more effort, yeah, that's a good way.
Yeah.
So we decided that we were going to do it, and we decided we were going to take Heimdall as our patron. And of course, it happened twice that that rainbow fell out of the sky. Once, the first time when we decided to start the Kindred and take Heimdall as patron. Patron of the Kindred, which we talked about patronage last time.
Last episode.
Yeah, so
Episode 27.
Sure. So if you want to know about taking patrons and stuff, that's that. But we have a patron of the Kindred, same patron as the patron of Gallahorn Kindred, our mother Kindred. And when we decided to do that, a rainbow, it's just a regular, normal sunny day, and boom, a rainbow falls out of the sky, double rainbow, falls out of the sky, visually landing on top of where our vey is now. And then the second time it was like we didn't quite get the hint off of that one, right?
Yeah.
So the second time we're like, yeah, that was Heimdall saying start the Kindred, do your thing. So we're like, yeah, we're gonna do it. He'll be here, he'll pick up our slack if we screw this up. Right? And so the second time we're like, hey, where should we put the vey, because we can't keep using this small one. Should we expand it or should we move it? And then boom, here comes that rainbow again, double rainbow right in the same spot. And we're like, where is that? So we walked over there and we're like, this is the spot. Like, it's a spot on our own land, but we didn't see it with those eyes. We've been around that trail and over that spot a million times, but we didn't see it with the eyes of making it a vey. And once we seen it, we're like, there was no doubt. It was like, that's the vey. Cut that tree out, move this little piece here, and boom.
Yeah, and all the kids, they just grabbed axes and just started cutting down small saplings and because we had a lot of really thick spots on our land that they cut down and weaved the fence and
yeah,
and it just kind of just flowed into the the circle it is.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, that circle was largely accidental. Yeah, and we'll probably one of these days tear that fence out of there. But to go back to the original question, every gathering there is a vey maintenance period, and that's how we maintain it. And then in the interim, especially if we don't have a gathering or if we're doing some other stuff, we're out there all the time. I'm at the vey every couple of days anyway.
I go out there a lot just to take pictures of our stuff.
Oh yeah.
Just to take cool pictures.
Or if we get a really nice snow, you can't miss an opportunity to get some little video clips or something. Yeah.
Yes.
So it's a beautiful space, but it's also kind of like an outdoor studio in a way because we do a lot of stuff like that. But it'll never be as regarded as just like a studio. Like, this is a studio, right? Like, this is just a studio. It's just a little section of our office that we use for this purpose. It doesn't have any special real meaning. The vey will always have that special meaning. Like, man, I don't know if I'd ever want to even sell the house. Unless we could put a fence around that little section of land and cut it out, you know?
I
Say,
know.
like, this is our land right here. You don't touch that part.
Just put the Heimdall banner right in the center of it and claim it.
Yeah. Yeah. Plant a flag in it.
Well, I will say that it was probably over a year ago that I did a small little story on setting up the vey with our kids and some slideshows of pictures on Patreon.
Yeah.
So there is a small thing on that.
Okay, so that's on Patreon. So if you're not one of our patrons, we have a Patreon, and we have 3 tiers, 3, 6, and 9, and you get various different levels of access to us through that. But really, it's just there so you can support us and help us pay for things like, recording equipment and the things we need to make these things happen. You know what I mean?
Caca.
Caca. Yeah. So that's really what it's about. What else?
You want another question?
Yeah, let's get some more questions. Well, did I answer that one complete, you think?
I think so for spaces that are set up outside. But we didn't talk about any spaces that are set up inside.
Were they referring about inside stuff?
No, they weren't. But that does, bring to mind...
those that don't have the outdoor
Yeah,
space.
those that have a little space set up in the basement and it's kind of hidden and they don't know what to do with it and they feel kind of weird about it, and it's like you can totally dedicate a whole corner of your house.
Yeah.
Or a little corner. It doesn't matter.
Well, I guess the maintenance of that. So I have my own little private altar over here. I meditate in front of it and do other things. She's got hers over there. This is our Kindred stuff, but it's not our personal stuff. It's our Kindred stuff.
Yeah.
Even though I own it, it's not my personal stuff, Although that's probably going to be my urn. I'm probably going to get cremated and put in that thing when I die. Maybe.
I'll just mix you up with some mead and...
Yeah, mix me up with some mead. Mixed with holy mead and sent about in abroad. You're going to mix me up like Vassar?
Yeah. I
Nice.
might use you as like a little...
Pass it around the Kindred. Everyone's going to spit in it. Stir it up. Swear a truce.
I'll use a little smudge eyeshadow or something.
Yeah, they can use my ashes to do the little ashes on their forehead thing.
Nope, not that one.
No? Is that a bridge too far? Okay.
Indoor spaces.
Indoor spaces. So we each have our own indoor space, and we maintain them at whatever interval we normally do. I mean, usually I'll sit down and I'll kind of organize my things around my space, but my space isn't centered on a bowlie, and it's centered on an incense burner and some like totems, some important little totem type things. But it changes often. I decorate it for the season, or I'll change it when I get some new stuff. Maybe I want to try out a new incense burner or something, then I'll swap it in and out. And so that particular, my little special personal altar is very, it's always in transition, right? It's always moving from one space to another. Maybe it's set up to Tyr for one period, and Uller for another, and Freya to another, and Frigga to a different one, depending on what I'm going through. Then my altar space changes its look and its feel, but it's never messy.
Well, we do like a very clean, organized altar.
Yeah, but I've seen other people's.
Some people don't.
It's just a giant table full of like pieces of the woods, and they look awesome, and they're way animistic, and they're definitely gifts from the forest, and way to honor them.
Yeah.
I just do it a little differently. I got a bowl of feathers. There's probably 100 feathers in it, but it's just from going out hunting, and it's all there. But for me, those feathers are a gift, but they're not something that needs to be venerated. They're there, and if I want to make an arrow, or I want to go, build a bow and make
or
some
a headdress.
Or you want to use it in a headdress or some other crafting item or something, then I have the resources because they were gifted to me, and I can do what I want with them. And I don't want to stare at them in a big pile on my altar. I like my altars to be super clean and dressed up, So
I think we got...
okay, well, I hope so. If not, we can ask the question again or whatever. We can clarify. So just to clarify, these questions came from our Discord. We created a wall just so people can ask us questions our tribesmen, can ask us questions and we can answer them. Sometimes I'll throw a quick answer, right? And then I'll be like, I'll get into more detail later, but here's a quick answer just to get you through it.
I actually have a question that you said that to.
On this one?
Yeah, I might as well put it in right now because it's
you might as
perfect
well.
timing.
Yeah, good lead in. Good lead in.
So I actually put this in parentheses so I could mention it to you, but you mentioned you gave them their answer and then you would expand on it on the podcast.
Uh-oh. Now I feel like I'm on the spot.
You are on the spot.
Sweet.
Get comfortable.
I'm comfortable.
As someone who has not had success finding literally anyone to do anything with, do I even need tools beyond vessels to leave offerings in?
What'd I say?
I didn't write your answer on that.
Oh, you didn't?
No.
Oh.
But I know what you said. You said no.
Well, of course I said no. Because it's not necessary. Yeah.
You said no, and I'll elaborate on the podcast.
Man, now I got to elaborate?
Yeah.
It's pretty simple. No. You don't need them.
You're going to have to give him more than that. You promised.
Wait.
As someone who has not had success finding literally anyone to do anything with, do I even need tools beyond vessels to leave offerings in?
Okay. Well, that's a personal choice. Like, I would think that, I use some tools in the solo bloat. Like we have a video on doing the solo bloat. And, and I use some tools in that. I use some, besides just a vessel, I still used a hammer and I use some other stuff. So I think that still, it just all comes down to personal choice. If you feel like the tools put you in that space to do that, like, you grab, you put on your spit and polish and you grab your rifle and you go out to the parade ground, you're in a mindset to go do drill, right? And then here comes the drill instructor, and everybody locks their body. And because you're kind of creating this whole scenario, this play, and you all know your part. Right? So if you're going out to do ritual and you don't have any triggers or anything that tell you that the game is on, then you can just maybe muddle through it and not be fully engaged. Whereas just the act of, like, for me, like holding my boli and doing the procession out there is a point where I get my mind in the game, and having my tools gives me a place to put my focus, and it tells me that we're in the show. We're not practicing. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I think that having the tools in your hands or at hand, but that's my life too. I mean, I'm a Marine sniper. I did 20 years in Marine Corps. Like, my tools are important. My tools are the game. So we can run around in the woods and we can pretend we're doing assaults on the hill, but when you grab your gear and your ruck and your rifle, and then you pour out of the back of an Amtrak in a foreign land, like, it's on for real, right? Like, the tools matter.
Yeah, like they give you live ammo.
Yeah,
it's time.
Yeah, when you get live
Let's
ammo.
get ready to rumble.
Yeah. So there's a lot of things. For me, having the tools is I don't know, it's almost like a crutch, truthfully. So I'll say it. For me, it's a crutch. I like my tools, but they're not required. Yeah, they're not required.
Well, I agree with you. I like my tools too. And for me, I've done, rituals with modern clothing and minimalistic tools. And it's okay. It's a good ritual, but it's not this amazing ritual that I just, dove into and just had just this feeling of being totally immersed into that space.
Yeah, and it's all creates the mindset. So when you grab your tools, especially if you dress for ritual and you put on your,
I do love dressing for ritual.
I do too. Yeah, it doesn't mean that we pigeonhole the entire, path down to the couple of hundred years of the Viking Age. We're not like that. It's not like that. It's about getting close to your ancestors. It's about wearing clothing that you made with your own hands. It's just a whole mindset thing. It's almost like, so here's a good example, a modern example that people can probably understand. When you go to the emergency room, right?
Okay.
Maybe not the emergency room, but you go to the hospital because you're a patient or you have a procedure or whatever. You can walk in on your own two legs and they're going to put your ass in a chair. And that chair signifies that you're no longer in control. You can't even walk. You are going to be wheeled wherever you needed to, and all you do is just sit back and enjoy the ride. But it's a moment, it's a trigger that says you're not in control anymore. You don't get to do what you want to do. We're going to tell you where to go, where to be, when to be there, and how to be. And for now, you're not even allowed to walk. Like, it's a mindset thing. You give up control when you sit down in that chair and you say, okay, do with me. You've got my trust. Do with me what you will. So when you grab your tools and put on your garb and you go out to do ritual, you're putting yourself in a different time and place. You're entering into that other space, I think. And that's what it really does for me.
Here I am. Show me what I need to see.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And we don't have to say
I
it
love
because
that.
we're kind of wearing it, you
Yeah.
know. But I mean, that's us. I mean, we're pretty weird and peculiar. It's obvious that the way we do things isn't the way everybody does things, and we're cool with that. Some people aren't cool with the way we do things, but
Well, I think they just don't understand because they don't see episodes like this.
well, I don't. It's not so much about understand. I think they think that we're trying to force our way on, and nothing could be further from the truth. We're not trying to in any way tell anybody they got to do stuff the way we do it, but it sure is fun.
Well,
And
I do think a lot of times it's just because of our dress and we're LARPing and but they don't understand, like, we've been doing this for 30 years. Like, this isn't LARPing to us.
Well, I mean, I might have said this last time, but it's not live action role play because we're doing it.
Oh yeah, because we're living it.
Yeah, we're not pretending.
Yeah.
I'm not pretending to go do a sacrifice to Odin. I'm doing a sacrifice to Odin. I'm just dressing to do it. That's not LARP. That's real deal. My first bloat was a canteen cup, a hammer that might as well just be a necklace, really, for all intents and purposes. It might as well just be your hammer necklace. And then coffee, or like I said, on a hike or something like that, where it's valuable, water is valuable, you know? So that's pretty simplistic. And to all the way to the top of the hill, when you want to get really crazy, you can have a ritual tool in each hand, and they can be very specific to the deity that you're bloating to, right?
Yeah.
Like I said, I can have a Thor's hammer in one hand and an antler in another for Frey, or a drop spindle for Frigga, you know.
Or a spear for Odin. You've done that one.
Oh,
sword for Tyr.
I always do a spear for Odin and
Yeah.
Thor, and a sword for Tyr. Yes. But I do the hammer too.
I know.
Well, not always, but sometimes.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's no rules. Like, do what feels good. Try different things. Just because you did it this way this time doesn't mean you got to do it that way the next time. Right? And I think that, so the simplistic to difficult sort of model that he's talking about, I think start simple. Start with the simplest way you can with the least amount of tools, and then just start doing ritual. Just start honoring the gods and start bringing that into your daily practice. I mean, I probably honor any number of gods and spirits through the course of a day way more than just on once a month at a bloat, you know?
Yeah.
So we're
Same.
we're living it. We're active duty. We're not reserves here. Like, it's every minute of every day there's something to be grateful for, or
Notice.
notice. Yeah, to just take notice of. Because you don't always have to be grateful for it, but you can always notice the intervention, right? So I notice the intervention. Like, I'm not grateful when I leave the house and forgot my wallet and I get, out to the main road and I got to turn around and come back. I'm not grateful. I'm pissed off, But then when I get my wallet and I go all the way back, and then by the time I get to an intersection where I'm supposed to turn, the cops got somebody pulled over, and I'm like, that could have been me.
Yeah.
Yeah. Or somebody's in an accident or something, and you're like, wow. Or you just see the big accident happen in your rearview mirror or something, and you're like, wow, if I would have been a minute slower, that could have been me. Or, you know what I'm saying?
I do know what
or
you're saying.
happen right in front of you. There's so many little occurrences like that. So you don't always have to be happy when things happen, but certainly be aware enough to recognize when they happened in your favor, because everything's a chain of events, right? We might have a blink of power that goes out. Alarm clock doesn't go off. We're supposed to be in Montana. We leave 3 hours late, and then when we get there, they're just clearing up this huge semi-crash on the pass, And we're like, whew, we could have been in the midst of that,
Yeah, I mean, I think of that kind of stuff all the time when I'm driving and It's just there's always something it's stopping you from moving forward in a fast, like for some reason I need to go fast. I need to be there.
Right.
I'm feeling rushed and everything is stopping me. And after about the third one, it's like, okay, I hear you.
I hear you, universe. Let it happen.
I hear you, and I'm just going to chill.
Exactly the same thing with me. When I finally realize it takes me a minute, and then I find it, I figure it out, and I'm like, there's something preventing me from being where I'm trying to be very quickly.
Yeah.
Just enjoy the ride. Just chill out, slow down.
And it happens a lot.
And then there's almost always some little thing that you're like, wow, glad I wasn't involved in that.
Why should one do ritual even if they feel they don't have a connection to a higher power? Even if they don't feel a connection to a higher power, why should you do ritual?
Don't? No, I'm kidding. No. Well, everything's a ritual anyway. So from the way that you set the table to feed your family to everything's a ritual, anything that, so if your rituals aren't making you feel connected to the gods, try different rituals, right?
Well, why should you even do rituals at all?
Well, so I guess the question is a little misleading because this is where I would probably probe for a little bit more understanding. And it's like, does it mean that you don't feel connected to the faith, or you don't feel a connection to any particular deity, like you don't have a patron? So I'm going to take this question because I get to do what I want with it because it's not very clear.
Okay.
I'm going to take this question. I'm going to say, so you're not connected to a patron. You don't feel any strong connection to any particular deity. Why would I do ritual? And the reason is because if you are true on the path, you should be able to recognize where these deities or these characters in your story help you or aid you, and you should do ritual to thank them. It's not about establishing a God spouse. I don't believe in that at all. I think that's a ridiculous idea, is to be God's spouse.
Yeah, I don't even know where that came from.
It's modern stuff. It wasn't around years ago, or maybe it was and we didn't hear about it because nobody we were hanging out with was talking about that kind of stuff. But I think it's ridiculous to be God's spouse. The gods are there. They all have good and bad in them. They're all there available to us. So if you don't feel particularly strong connected with one, that just means you're not ready to commit to a partnership like like a patronage, like choosing Tyr or Frigga as a patron. But as I covered before, you don't necessarily, just because you picked a patron doesn't mean that you're now monotheistic. You still can honor all the gods. Your patron is only really just an example that you want to follow. And if you don't have a patron, it really just means that you're probably a little lost on your own path. Likely you don't really have an example that you want to follow because you don't have a direction that you want to go. You're kind of just feeling it out, kind of testing the waters, right? So I would say that's even more cause to do ritual. And notice when a healing took place, like somebody healed and got well, or somebody was sick and you needed to ask Ear for help, do a ritual to Ear. Feel that motherly hug when you're down and out, and you just feel that love and compassion for no reason. You just feel like you're being cared for. Do a ritual for Frigga, or that time when you're feeling just a little bit skittish and you're like, you know what, I'm just going to do it. And you just kick open the door and you go in there and you order the coffee that you want, even if the girl that you like is behind the counter. You know what I mean? Like, you just grow some balls and you go do it. Man, do a ritual to Thor and thank him for a little bit of bravery and a little courage. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, those are the times to do the rituals, to get connected, to find that, find your balance, or find your way, find your direction, and then and just notice when the gods intervene. If the gods aren't intervening in your life at all, maybe that's a reason to do ritual, to get their attention, to say, hey, notice me, I'm here, and I'm here for you, just like you're here for me. Let's make a partnership out of this, or I'm gonna jump ship, No, and I will say don't do that, because I've always learned that ultimatums never work. They don't.
Nope.
I've been there. I've been to every bit of it. Everything you think that you're going through, I've probably been through it. I've been in the yard crying like a baby, screaming at the gods. Why the like, I've done it all. Run down them roads.
Yeah.
Try it out. Like that. You're never going to get anywhere if you don't risk it a little bit. but there's no reason not to. Just notice when there's an intervention for good or bad, and take appropriate action and thank the right person. It's not always one god, right?
Yeah.
It's not always Loki, you know. It's not always Thor. It's not always Odin. It can be a couple of them. It can be. I mean, they travel together. Read the Eddas. Like, they travel together. They do things together. Sometimes it's both of them. Sometimes it's one of them. Sometimes it's none of them. Sometimes it's just, maybe it's just the spirits of the land. Notice it. Honor it.
Well, it's certainly a mindset. Because, you've talked on your winters before, and, I mean, I've had winters. We've just had winters as a whole family. And it's just a mindset on noticing the little things, and sometimes you're just ignoring them, and they get louder and louder and louder.
Yeah, right.
And then eventually it's like, okay, I hear you, I'm coming back.
Yeah.
It's
like a pinging in your engine. You're like,
yeah.
Oh, I can't really ignore that. I have to. Eventually, it's going to get louder until that engine doesn't work anymore. Yeah.
But I know there was quite a few years, between the transition from Gallahorn into, just being solo practitioners again. Right. There wasn't as much.
Well, a hearth cult, I guess they would call that.
Okay.
We were never solo.
No. Yeah, so I guess a hearth cult.
Which is also a new term, but I like it. I like the term. I didn't like it at first, but it's grown on me.
Okay.
I don't know.
Anyway, I totally derailed now, so I'm just going to find the next question.
Yeah, please do that.
Does the inclusion of more or less tools in a ritual affect the ritual's validity at all? And if they aren't needed in ritual, why include them at all?
Well, I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this one because I think we already kind of covered it.
I think we did.
But the idea is that they put you in the right space. They put you in the place where that world in between worlds.
Mm-hmm.
I think I covered that one.
I think you did too.
If I didn't, man, hit me up back on the Discord, and I'll clarify it a little bit more if we need to. But I think we kind of covered it. And by the way, I haven't given anybody's names here. I didn't get permission to use names. So maybe in the future on the Discord, like if it's okay to use your name or your handle, I'm perfectly okay with giving credit. You guys got some genius ideas here, especially some great questions. And I'd really like to point a finger at the people who asked them, but I won't do it without permission. We, as a kindred, as a family, who we are, consent is 100% of everything we do. And we didn't get consent to use your name, so I'm not going to. But in the future, we certainly will. Anyway.
Okay. All right, so how do you go about cleaning ritual tools? We already talked that one, didn't we?
No, we didn't talk about cleaning them.
All right, so cleaning ritual tools. Also, is there a way to recharge them spiritually? I thought that was our first question.
No, we talked about transferring energies from tools to tools.
Oh, okay. You're right.
Yeah, we didn't talk about cleaning them.
All right, cleaning them, and is there a way to recharge them spiritually?
Well, I don't know that what you'd clean them like. I mean, if I was actually like slaughtering a sheep or something, of course I'm going to clean my tools when I'm done with that, right? Mm-hmm. Because there's a lot of bad things that can happen when you leave blood laying around on stuff. But I don't know exactly what tools he's thinking of, but I'll say that. So my tools are all brass, bronze, and copper mostly, with some wood and bone and stuff like that mixed in. Once a year I polish all of my tools with Never Dull or Brasso or whatever I can, and I get everything blinging, and I do that for our Yule bloat. So Yule, everything is about as blingy as it can be, and it makes for really good pictures in the snow. The only thing that I don't polish and never have is the inside of my bowlies or my cups or offering vessels. I never polish the inside of them. I always leave them.
Well, you say you never, but you always do the first time you get them.
Yeah, I was going to get to that.
Oh,
but when I get a new tool, yes, I clean the inside. I don't know what was in it. I don't know. It could have been holding the weird little mints at grandma's that stick together.
Yeah, those ribbon candies.
Yeah,
and stuff.
Yeah. It could have had that stuff in it. I don't know, but whatever it wasn't ceremonial, and so I always give a really good polish on the inside, but around the outside. But I mean, I know I was trying not to make this visually dependent, but you can see the inside of my bowlie set green ring. That's what copper does. But I'm not going to polish that out because that is as far as I'm concerned, that's the life and energy of every ritual that's been poured into it.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And so with our drinking horns, I always rinse my horns on the inside with cold water. I don't use warm. I always use cold water because I don't want to melt the wax because our horns aren't epoxy. They're all waxed. And I usually rinse my horns on the outside too because they get a little sticky sometimes when you dribble in and pour in.
You do rinse the bowlie. You do
I do
use
rinse the
cold
bowlie.
water to rinse the bowlie and a towel to dry it.
I do, yeah.
But yeah.
Yeah,
you
after ritual when I pour it out. As soon as I come back to the house, I rinse all of my gear off.
Because everything's sticky.
Yeah, everything's sticky. And then that once a year at Yule, I do a good polish and clean on everything. And if it needs repair, I'll repair it too. Like, so like the handle wrapping would be a good example. Sometimes that gets loose, or sometimes that brass wire, maybe it'll break where it's connected, and I'll have to go back and do some repair. All of that happens around Yule, unless it's like catastrophic, and then I'll repair it before the next ritual.
All right, here's one.
Okay.
How can you do a ritual without having tools that scream, "I am heathen," if you live in a household that does not accept your faith? So how do you do a ritual?
You don't need tools to do the ritual. That's got to be a very hard thing to do, to live in a household full of people that don't accept you for who you are or how you believe. That's got to be as far as I'm concerned, that's a hostile living environment anyway. And you'd probably do well to get out of it as soon as you could. But I understand that people are just people, and sometimes we get in the pickle, you know.
Yes.
I didn't have that. My mom was Catholic, but she was very supportive of my way. She never bothered. In fact, she stood in. We had our re-wedding at our 10 years. We got married at an all thing, and my mother stood in as your maid of honor, right? Mm-hmm. Wearing, dressing for ritual, or matron of whatever.
Yeah.
Wearing a Viking dress, and she just took part in the festivities because she was a very accepting of people for who they are. Mm-hmm. So for all her faults, I would say that she was pretty accepting for people for who they are, for good or bad, you know?
Yeah.
So, yeah, she didn't put her shit on anybody else, and she didn't take their shit either. So that was pretty cool.
Well, some of these might be younger.
And that's what I'm thinking. That's what I have in my head is like you haven't moved out of your parents' place yet, and your parents are maybe kind of zealots about it. And you know, we get those guys on YouTube. We'll probably get some comments on this one from some zealots telling us we're going to hell because Jesus whispered in their ear and told them that we were the devil or something. So hey, that happens, man. Like it was happening today. So, so whatever.
They would know what we're talking about if they were on our Discord.
So you don't really need. Heathenry or paganism is an attitude. It's a lifestyle. It's not about the tools and the toys. You don't have to have Viking garb and, skull T-shirts and all that kind of. All that stuff's great and fun and and spiritual and all. But if you just have the mindset, like the only tools you need are your body that were given to you, and your mind and your voice. Anytime you're outside, you can lean against a tree and you can talk to the tree. You can just lean against the tree casually and have a conversation with it, just like you're having a conversation with Thor or Odin or whatever. That in itself is sort of a ritual. Mm-hmm. Maybe it's not a formal ritual, but if you do it all the day, it at least becomes routine, right? And routine is nothing more than a reoccurring ritual.
If you do it every day too, look for gifts, because there may be a gift at the base of it occasionally.
Right, and even if you're a Christian, do you think your parents would have an issue if you had a little vase full of feathers that you found outside on your dresser? And they'd be like, what is that? Are you some kind of heathen? I just found feathers. Every day when I go for my walk, I find feathers. I put them in my jar. Is there something wrong with that? Does God not like feathers? So you could have some like animistic like symbology going on like that, and not raise a red flag around the fact that you don't practice or think the same way that other people do. It's not, you don't have to have an altar set up, but you know, your dresser would make a decent altar if you just threw a couple of cool things up there that you found outside. Like I wouldn't be bringing home skulls and bones and stuff, but the occasional leaf that you can press between wax paper. Remember we were doing that growing up, or between the pages of a book or something.
Yeah,
something like that. Yeah, you could even just write a letter to a god or goddess and then read it in your head and then burn it and send it off. You know. I mean, that's a ritual. So
they might get a little trouble for burning stuff.
Not necessarily. It depends on the
Not
situation.
necessarily.
I'm not trying to read everybody's situation.
Just have them write that letter and mail it to Gothi Bodvarr.
just burn it. Like,
Yeah.
people have fires. They have bonfires, you know. If you're out there having a bonfire with your bros or whatever,
Yeah, just wad it up like it's garbage.
and toss it in the fire. Yeah.
Yeah.
You can be very subtle about some of this stuff. The thing is, it's not dogmatic. So you're free to do what makes you feel connected in your circumstance. And if you feel like you need to do more, then slowly figure out how to integrate more into it. Right?
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, I think that's about all I can say on that, because I don't have that issue. Of course, I help a lot of people. I talk to a lot of people about it and how they get through it. But the animistic mindset is, you know, everything has life in it. So just honor that, and you don't need the tools.
Yeah.
Right? You certainly don't need to display them like this. Like, obviously, you know, zealot parents aren't going to be digging on this on this contraption here. But
I would just say be safe. You know,
yeah,
do things safely and have patience.
yeah, for
Your
sure.
circumstance will change.
Mm-hmm. Eventually, yeah, you got to lean in the right direction. Your circumstance isn't going to change if you don't do anything to change it, though. The gods don't work like that. You have to lean in that direction.
Well,
You have to
I mean, if we're talking young kids, I mean, they're eventually going to grow up and move out of their parents' house.
theoretically,
Oh, yeah. Theoretically. It didn't work. Didn't work for us, did it?
It's a hard world right now, though.
Yeah.
Like, the kids that are turning 18 and, you know, now don't have the same, they certainly don't have the same buying or spending power that we had. You know? I mean, yeah, we were still poor as all get out, but a dollar was a dollar, you know? A carton of cigarettes was $20.
Yeah.
You
With
know,
their
$14 if you bought generic. It's not like now where you gotta, like, you have to literally have to work, like, what, like on somebody's regular wages, you gotta work like 6 hours just to buy a carton of smokes.
Yeah.
Isn't it something like that? What are people making now? What are people making? 15 to $20 an hour?
I think 15 is average, but like the legal wage in Idaho is like $7.25.
Oh, that's hideous.
$7.25.
But we'll say at 15 or well, at $20. So
Okay.
at $20 an hour, which is a good wage. It's more than I make.
Yeah, like most people aren't going to make that. That's too much.
Okay.
15.
Well, it doesn't matter. At $20 an hour,
Okay, $20 an hour.
that's still 4 hours of work for a carton of smokes for $80.
Yeah.
You know,
Mhm.
that's ridiculous.
I think they're spending as much money on groceries.
I don't know why I gravitated to smokes. Groceries are obviously worse.
Well, yeah. I'm saying they probably spend more on groceries a week than we did rent in a month when we were their age.
Yeah, probably. Everything's doubled or tripled.
I mean, back
cost.
then it was like, what, $350, $400 a month for...
So anyway, we got kind of way off. But the point is, not everybody's going to be getting out of their parents' house. Sometimes you just got to live, and that's how you're going to live. So you got to you got to adopt a system that works for you.
True.
You know? Where else we got?
All right. So, let's see. These were... I don't know if you wanted to drop names, but these were from one of our trusted sources.
Is that all we have left?
Yeah, I just wanted to mention some of the other items that people don't
Yeah,
think
I didn't
of.
get his permission, but he's on TikTok, and he's one of our trusted sources. So if you come to our tribe on Discord, we have our mods, which are also trusted sources, because they've proven over time that they're not going to fill everybody full of bullshit. They're not going to. They'll just give facts, and if it's opinions, then your opinion it'll be made.
Well, they'll
known that
say it's their opinion.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So they're very good sources of information. They got good resources available to them. So one of those is Hugin, and he's been a friend of ours for quite a while. He's a trusted source on our Discord, and so instead of throwing a question down, he was like, "Hey, if you do this one, don't forget to mention these things." So, what's he saying?
Let's see. Ritual tools can be mostly free
Yes.
or super expensive crafted items.
Yes, like a lot of our stuff, and
Yes.
a lot of our stuff we get from Goodwill or other thrift stores. Mm-hmm. We actually did a video on setting up an altar on a budget, and it was like $20 or something, and I think it was $26 if we got everything for $26 and like everything we needed for like $19, right? And that was still a lot of ritual gear. And then most of that stuff we donated to Iron Raven's Kindred
Which I think they passed on some of those ritual items to some of they've upgraded some of their items.
I know Chris got a copper bully, and
Yeah.
I gave him a steel one.
They passed on some of their things to some of their members that didn't have anything.
Yeah, that's cool. Yeah, and get them all doing it. And I know Chris has set up in his living room, he set up an altar similar to the one we have downstairs,
Yes, and I think he used to have just a little tiny space, kind of hidden away.
Yeah, now it's prominent front and center.
Yeah. But that was one of the things he took away from us that first meeting on the lawn at the chapel. Was like, or maybe not at the chapel, but like our first time we had him here is like, you can do this. You can have your
You
space
put everything out on display.
right there. And it's like, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so that also that ritual tools are not strictly necessary, but they add to the ceremony.
Yeah.
We did talk on that quite a bit.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, he made some good points early on.
There are several ritual tools that we can develop, which go with us everywhere, such as our voice, our memory, speaking in Icelandic or Norwegian or Swedish, which is something that we both do.
A native tongue. Yeah, we're learning Swedish. I'm almost at a 365-day streak on Swedish.
Yeah. Well, but we both use that in ritual. We both speak.
We do, yeah.
Just a small section, and that's all it takes. But
yeah, I mean, we don't generally put. Well, no, we do some of that.
Yeah.
The Helga Viektera och Kindred Aleska.
Yeah.
Which is, we do the best we can with it, but it's Icelandic, and it's the way that they would open the rituals in Iceland too. I think.
So also, something else that can add a lot to ceremony would be speaking or singing memorized poetry or stories.
Right, yeah.
So anything to have to do with your voice.
Yeah, the instrument that you were given.
So those are what he would like to have us mention.
Yeah, well, I think we covered most of that.
We did.
So that's good. Anything else on there?
Well, I have a list of some of the ritual tools. Like, if you did want to get started, what are some of the ritual tools that you would want to start looking for and picking up?
Well, I think the first and foremost is the boli.
I agree.
And I think that's the beginning and the end of it all, is the boli. But if you want to really jazz it up, you can start with an altar cloth, something to put down underneath your boli. And cover the altar. And the beauty of the altar cloth is, if you have like one that you really like or you appreciate, it doesn't matter what you use as an altar anymore. You could use a card table, you can use a tree stump, you can use a rock, you can use the ground. It always looks the same. It's very predictable because it's on the same cloth, right?
Yeah. I want to make a little suggestion here because I know a lot of people have trouble finding an altar cloth. And at Goodwill, I'm pricing them all the time, and it's like, oh, that'd make a beautiful altar cloth. That would be a nice altar cloth. And they're scarves. They're all these beautiful silk scarves or embroidered
they'll drape
scarves.
Off on the sides.
Yes, and you can double them up. Sometimes they have fringe. There's some really beautiful scarves that come through.
Cool.
And not like, the scarves that just go around your neck during the winter, but the ones that You put over your head.
Like
and
a babushka.
yeah, babushkas.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, very cool.
Yeah, there's a lot of beautiful ones.
Mm-hmm.
And they're cheap too. They're usually like $2-3.
Yeah, and depending on who you are and what suits your personal taste, something like your head rag, like the Arab rags. Like I know a lot of military guys like to wear those. Those I forget what they're called.
Yeah, I can't remember what they're called.
Yeah, I forget what they're called. It'll probably come to me, but.
Well, one of the first altar cloths you had was a pillowcase, right?
Yes, actually, it was really cool because I set it up to go on deployment with me, and she made me a pillowcase out of camouflage fabric, a heavy camouflage fabric, and then she sewed on a tear rune.
Yeah, just a big old fat tear rune.
Yeah, just a big old tear rune.
I mean, it was big too. It was like.
And it was a pillowcase, so I'd slide it on my pillow, and I'd use that on the ship, and then when we would leave the ship and go ashore, I'd just roll it up and put it in my bag, and if I wanted to do a ritual, I could either hang that or drape it over a rock or an MRE box or anything, and I would have this banner dedicated to Tyr that I could do my ritual with. It was pretty cool.
Yeah.
And then at the end of the day, I still had a really cool camouflage pillowcase. And when we made our racks and we'd have to get inspected and everything, I would tie everything up the way that you have to tie up because your pillow has to actually be done a certain way. But they didn't seem to care that it was a camouflage pillowcase. Or I'd take it off and just put the white one on for the inspection and then put the camel one back on to sleep.
Yeah.
So much ritual gear laying around.
Okay, so we got the boli, we got the altar cloth.
Yeah.
What else should we?
The next one I would go with is a hammer. You can always use your hand. You can always use your hammer fist. But it always feels nice to me to have something in my hand. And it doesn't have to be a hammer. It can be anything because all it is really a focusing tool, especially when you're blessing something. It's just a tool to focus. So you can have your magic wand. It can be a spear or something that's sort of connected to that deity. Something that represents the deity that you're doing the ritual to. It doesn't always have to be a hammer. A secondary boli is a good idea if you're doing anything with another liquid, like water, for instance, for an Alsavatni. So I do my Alsavatnis, we do a sacrifice, we do mead, and mead goes in a boli, but I have a secondary boli, and that one's got water in it, and that's the water that I use to wash the child. But even that water gets a little splash of mead.
Yes.
Gets just a little hint of the ritual. And I also try to pick some flowers and whatever's growing naturally in the area to put that on. So anytime you see us doing an Alsavatni and you see the flowers and everything floating, usually some yarrow, some rose hips, maybe some dandelions, just whatever's colorful in there. That we didn't just go to the grocery store and buy a bouquet of flowers to throw in there. Like that stuff was growing in or around the vey. It was all gathered within a couple of feet around the vey. A drinking horn would probably be really high up on that list too.
Or cup, or
some sort of a chalice, some way to share. It's hard to describe it if you haven't seen what our rituals look like. So there's plenty of them here. Maybe check out our playlist on getting started in Asatru, and because I got some solo bloats and some group bloats on there. And then we did a year, maybe a little over a year with just a vlog. We vlogged a lot of our rituals.
Yes.
So there's a lot there to see.
That's where we get very personal and intimate.
Yeah.
And kind of open up the window of how our kindred.
Yeah, how we celebrate, how we do
hangs
business.
out.
Yeah, for sure. And then, so the horn we use to share the mead to everybody. We have one major horn, and if they brought a horn, they pour it in there. If not, they drink out of it. We don't have any problem with germs. Not even with COVID. We just figure the alcohol, maybe that'll kill it. If not, we'll just die with our kinsmen. Whatever. The little totems are always nice to have. Plus, it drives the Christians mad, because thou shalt not worship false gods or idols or something like that. Like, they can't handle it when you set something down and pour a little whiskey. What are you doing? I'm making an offering to my gods so I can have a successful hunt. They'll be like, get away from me, demon. Gladly, buddy.
I cast ye into. Okay, so anyway, we got our false idols.
False idols. Okay. Not at all, man. I can't even laugh at that. Like our idols, so our representations, our stand-ins, our avatars, I guess. Avatars.
Oh, I like avatars.
Avatars of
I
the
like
gods, yeah.
avatars.
So, well, they really are. Is they serve as a what would the word be? Just a representation.
Visual focusing.
Yeah, just something to put you in the space. It's like nobody wants to talk to the air. Like even as we're having a conversation right now, I'm really just talking to myself because I can see myself on the camera. But it'd be really hard to do if that was black and I was just looking at the back of my phone or something. That'd be really hard to hold this conversation. But I'm really just talking to two people, me and you. So it's nice if you're gonna go up there and if you want to speak to a god, that you have something that represents them. Something that you feel is correct. And it doesn't have to be a humanoid figure. It can be anything that represents them. A totem. Right? Mm-hmm. It could be anything that to you represents them. Well, I could set this out and I could have a conversation with Thor, right? That's the point of some of this stuff.
Well, I mean, you have your Brisingamen.
I do,
Freya.
Yeah, for Freya, I have this beautiful necklace made out of amber beads and some some fancy stuff. I wear that necklace when I do I generally hold it in one hand and a hammer in another, and then I put it on.
Yeah.
And then I go back and do the ritual.
Yeah,
but
yet another thing you...
But I'm always wearing the Brisingamen anytime I do any work with Freya.
All right, so let's see. We also have... Oh, there's plenty in, ritual tools. And I think that these might all have to be separate videos down the road. I think maybe you should elaborate on each one.
Well, I want to do one more thing. I want to talk about element of fire. So we always have an element of fire, whether it be an incense, a candle burning, or a bonfire in the Vey. Generally, when we have a ritual in the Vey, we have a bonfire going. If I just go out there to do a blessing or something quick, I'll usually burn our incense. We have our own blend of incense that I mix up, and that we use for blessing and spiritual cleansing. We always have a fire element because to us, that smoke is our line of communication to whatever is next. If you want to say the gods or the spirits or whoever we're speaking with, that smoke, that's what carries our hopes and dreams and conversations and gifts and everything else is all in that smoke. So we always have a fire element. I'm pretty sure that was a traditional way to do it. It's something they always talked about. So if you read deep into it, the things that were at a temple was a boli, often made of copper. The altar was ornate with iron, generally ironwork, decorative ironwork. It had on it a boli, a fire that would never be allowed to be put out. So I'm guessing probably like a shell or something with like an oil lantern, and they would keep it full of seal fat or something so it's constantly burning.
That makes
continuously.
sense. Yeah.
So it's always burning. So that connection, that line of communication to the gods is always open at the temple, right? That's the way that I interpret that, is that they don't snuff the fire out because the line of communication is always open directly from the gods to the temple. So we can do that too. When we light the fire in our Vey, we're opening that line of communication, and when we put the fire out, we're closing it, right? Because we don't run a temple. So we'll call it a lantern. So the lantern or the fire element, the boli, and then the last thing that was always on the altar was the oath ring. So if you wanted to be super traditional, you would have some sort of an altar, a boli, a lantern, or a fire element, and a oath ring. That's about the as much as it ever was. And probably the priest had his own special knife that he used for rituals, right? I would think.
I would think so too.
Or the Gothi or whomever was doing it. And probably had his own little ceremonial stuff, garb that he wears, or blood cloth that he dries his hands off with. People tend to just gravitate towards using the same thing for the same purpose over and over, right? Yeah, that's just human nature, I think. So I just wanted to make sure that we covered the fire element, but I like your idea.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. My idea of little videos on different ritual tools.
Like maybe just little 5-minute shorts on, hey, this is a boli, this is where it comes from, this is how it's used, these are the resources, here's the sources. You know what I mean? Here's a hammer. Why do we do it? It's made up. Maybe it's not. Thor used it.
Yeah, we can really get deep in the weeds
get deep in the weeds of some. Yeah.
And there's There's a lot of videos there because we have a lot of tools.
Yeah, there's a lot of potential videos there.
Yeah.
And some of it is UPG. It's like, hey, we use these tools because these are the tools of the gods. When they talk about Thor, defending with his hammer, so we use a hammer. Frey gave away his sword for to woo of Gerda. You can interpret that however you want. But then he has to fight in Ragnarok, which is nothing but an antler. So we have a massive antler that Frey would be proud to fight with, I would think.
That's a hell of a weapon.
It's a good weapon, yeah. You can swing it with both hands. It's almost as effective as probably scarier than a sword.
Yeah.
So,
I think it's scarier.
yeah, probably.
If you came running at someone with that, just swinging it.
So all I can think when I pick it up, so I hold it in one hand. If I grab it with two hands like this, all I can hear in my head is that sound from Jim Carrey, the cable guy. Louis, Louis, or whatever, when he was doing that little battle thing with the, you know what I'm talking about?
Yes, when he's at,
When he's at, a castle restaurant.
Yes.
Yeah, and he's doing that whole battle. And that's when I hold that antler. I'm like, yeah, let's do battle, like a Vulcan or whatever. Anyway.
I'm only going to see that now. Every time you pick it up, I'm
every
going
time I
to
pick it up, you can hear. Now I gotta get that clip.
And now you're going to be going in a circle, and you're going to be going back. And
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's all I can think of when I grab it. I just want to fight that fight. Step in the ring with Jim Carrey, with my antler. Anyway, I think we should probably wrap this up.
Yeah, we should definitely wrap this up.
We're running kind of long.
Big surprise.
Yeah, and we tend to do that. So hopefully we got to the point, mostly. We at least got to some questions.
Well, I crossed off all the questions, whether or not they feel like their questions were answered.
Hey, if not, we'll clarify them later. Ask them again.
But I think we're going to drop another question bomb on them.
Probably, yeah.
Yeah.
It's good. I like answering questions. It's cool because I don't have to think much. I mean, I don't have to think about keeping the conversation running for an hour and a half. All I got to do is answer a question. I do that all day anyway. So, cool. All right, let's wrap it up. So don't forget, if you're new here, if you made it this far, then you're one of us. So go ahead and hit that subscribe button so you keep coming back. So wherever you're consuming this, whether it's on Spotify or any of the other podcasting platforms, just know that there's a video variant of it. It's basically just us sitting here in our studio, but we're pretty good looking, and we're not bad to look at. So you're welcome to come hang out with us, and maybe every once in a while there's something a little bit visually dependent, like this thing that you can't even see. But maybe if you come watch it on YouTube, you'll be able to see what I was just holding up.
That was kind of mean.
Yeah. But if not, that's okay. The podcast isn't visually dependent.
They totally want to know what you were just holding up.
I'm not going to say it. So, all right. So that's it. Hopefully you guys can make it back next week. Hopefully we'll make it back next week. If not, it'll be the week after because we've got a lot going on. We'll see you guys on the next one. Þórr viki.
Þórr viki.